So the big breakdown is pretty much local students, tourists.
Okay.
In particular, there were a number of Asian tourist groups.
Yeah, so in line, I thought she was by herself, and then she got to the ATM, did her transaction, and then when she stepped back from the line, she started talking with two other people who were also wearing tourist clothes, and then they all walked off together. So it was really interesting. It's like these three people were there together to go to the ATM, and none of them even looked at each other while they were in line or while they were making their transaction.
I did mine on environment and a little bit on macro for the most part. I thought the environment, there were a lot of large traffic. There were city buses and tourist buses. The environment itself is Edinburgh. There's a lot of flow and a lot of movement. People are just constantly moving.
But this place is really different. I mean, it feels more business-like.
Okay.
There are this parking lot is used by a lot of businessmen that probably work nearby because there are expensive cars. It is like a space between two commercial districts. So you see, it's like a connecting space for those streets. Everybody just passes through here.
The parking police are there for two reasons. One is to actually ticket the cars, and I think the other is to be a huge visual reminder of why you have to pay for your parking.
At one point she had the little police screen, I don't know what they're called, attached to her belt. She had a cell phone in one hand along with a pen and then a pad in the other hand. And then I started looking at, the sort of pouches she had along her belt. She had three pouches in the front, one towards the side, and then one in the back that was almost impossible to reach.
Yeah.
And then she had to pull out her pad and paper and write down notes. Then she had to take a picture with her license plate machine. Then she had to enter the license plate machine. And one of the things that differed between the guy and the girl parking attendants is the guy used the pen tool on his little parking module. The woman poked really hard with her hand.
And so there were really interesting flows of traffic with the one inside the store. It's like if nobody was in the bank, people would just walk up to the window, use the ATM, and then leave. Whereas if there were people using it, they would go around this little barrier and then stand in line and then use it. So it was just two totally different directions of traffic people went on.
So most people were shopping. Were there taking money for shopping than carrying bags. There were a few that were carrying bags, but mostly there were people taking money so they could shop. And also we noticed that there were senior gentlemen and ladies that were taking time to check the receipts after the transaction with the using of taking the receipts and taking them really closely because they couldn't see. And we sort of justified that by thinking that it probably waiting for the pension paycheck to get in or something, because they were obviously looking at their balance. And this setting provided receipts and a paper, whereas the RBS branch didn't.
So a lot of women and a lot of plus 65 crowd. Pretty much every bench in the mall was plus 65. And there were a couple times where Sarah and I were both sitting on a bench, and it looked like the bench was full, that they would even come over and ask if we could scoot over. The benches kind of seemed to be a focal point for this plus 65 crowd in the mall.